Spiritual elements of life are first the emotional truth that's born inside you, inside your heart, in the moment of new experience. We felt that as children naturally with the full will, the full human will to accept it without question. It's just natural because it's life. It works in a symbiotic fashion instead of its negative, infectious, a parasitical relationship with Naas, the pedophilic influence. Unbelievable. He's a pedophilic influence. The emotional truth that's born, and it's born through the electromagnetic pulse in the earth. It is delivered. Spiritual truth in purity form is delivered. I think that's what was meant by the deliverance. And then your hearts got pedophiled, and you were told it was something else by your priest. And everybody believed the Catholic priest in the old days, right? Until they started getting caught for being pedophiles. And tens of thousands, like there's thousands of them. Dude, that has to tell you something. It's in their training, for fuck's sakes, for that many of them. And still you worship them like they're God. You see, that's the thing we don't get. That's what we don't. You see their evil. You hear the same lies that cover it up, the deception. You hear it as you heard it in the old days. You know that the speech pattern of the human will removal formula is there to intercept your emotional truth and distort its cognitive understanding to develop then an unresolved emotional filter for which then the subconscious will look for, because it's a search engine that relates with the current emotional experience, bringing forth as much knowledge as possible so the self can then survive its moment emotionally. You see? That's what the subconscious does. It doesn't know right from wrong. It listens to human will. Same with the human heart. Doesn't care what's right or wrong. It listens to human will. Same with... There's something else, I forgot. Okay, so once truth is born in you, and that torrent of evil circling the world, as described in the Dead Sea Scrolls, is electromagnetic, and it hacks the electromagnetic pulse to get into your heart. Once the truth is delivered, so is the infection, so then therefore is the parasitical relationship dynamic with Naas. He wants you hungry, he wants you addicted, he wants you sexualized, he wants you to sexualize children. Holy fuck. He's the original pedophile that is described in the Dead Sea Scrolls as fucking with Adam as a boy. And his feminine element. It's pedophilia. But that's his only strength is to turn the person. The person then either listens to that evil and acts out on it, or he says no to himself. But you get the influence. And if you deny that influence, then that's darkness. You're not denying the influence. You're denying the purity form of your truth. And that's what you were taken away from by this hacking. Okay? Understanding that. Moving on to the second element of that truth, which is intellectual wisdom as one unit, but gets separated into two. That's the beginning of duality, because then we direct the heart's thought with our cognitive ability to do so. The heart doesn't direct itself. The mind does. So that's your cognitive ability. Intellectual wisdom asks the light and asks logic. What's the answer to the question I'm asking, which is always a question of self? What does this mean to me? This impact, what does it mean? This emotional impact that just hit me as the result of my new experience new emotional experience with someone else. And it's always in terms of that relationship dynamic with someone else while you're relating to the relationship dynamic you have with you, one of the two influences inside you. The first one is life. The second one takes a thin sliver of that life and calls it purity. For you to get hungry, emptied first, and then hungry. Hunger for fullness to return, which is our natural hunger. For like if hunger was natural, we'd hunger for that first. It's not natural. But as children, we reach for a cookie. We don't reach for a drink. We reach for a cookie. And the relief from the pain that we feel from feeling humiliated, feeling ridiculed, and feeling embarrassed for having an emotional structure as the result of rejection of self-expression in purity form, it takes over and then suggests the self-protection behavior, which is to lie about how you're feeling. If I don't tell them, they won't reject me. That's what we tell ourselves as children. And then that's how we drain ourselves of the natural fullness element too. So that's how you get pedophiled. That's how Adam got pedophiled, how his Eve got pedophiled, to then fuck with his brain. And then the dark feminine element is installed. Fear, her speak to self, is not silent voice. It's not silence. It's an image of what you are to be afraid of. So when we're unresolved, so if I have an unresolved, what was one example in my life? Unresolved rejection from my mom. I was too afraid to look a girl in the eye at one time. You know, and the fear still comes back. I'm just stronger with it now. It's a really strong program because it was abusive. So it's super strong, right? It's so hard to get rid of, but I reparent that anyway, I reparent that hurt little boy in my method of realignment in the moment. And that's what you got to be so careful of. It's that penetration of interception in the moment of new experience that Naas wants from you. And he wants it from you so he can take you with him when there's no on planet consumption, I like to call it. And then you know what will happen? You all will start using the human will removal formula on yourselves, therefore then consuming yourselves and no longer the innocence you've been preying upon to get your needs met. And it's mostly not your fault. You have a human will who listens to movement, who says no and stop before you act, silently in silent voice, but so distant, far away from that now as an adult and a practiced individual in darkness, in your own emotional darkness, having to deny that thin sliver of truth and the other one and 14 other ones, finding one that is safe and going with that. But that's a falsehood. It can't ever be real if it's only a thin sliver of truth. It can't be. It has to be the full knowledge, body of knowledge of truth. A thin sliver can't do it. It gets manipulated. It gets exploited. And then it finds spiritual death in the emotional deadening it does to a person. Eventually that deadening turns into an emotional death, resulting in then automatically a spiritual death, because our emotions are physical conduits for the spirit of life to express itself. And that's what we are, expression machines of brand new life. Gods born in heaven apparently are born with the knowledge of a 30-year-old, and that makes a lot of sense, unless there was perfect parenting there. I don't know if that's done genetically, and that what's her face there. See, I'm not sure what's going on. Is it the Anunnaki, the two brothers that have evolved, and one of them is the Son of God, or they both are. Yeah, they both are. It's the brothers. Cain and Abel was that story. The duality itself, like Yaldabaoth was the dark side, and the child of light is the light side. Child of light being the child of light, being the purity of truth, right? There can't be light if there's darkness. Even just a little bit of darkness, because it wrecks the light. It's not purity anymore. It's black and white. I promise you, go to black and white thinking. Okay, people didn't want you to think directly like that. That's why they say black and white thinking is what label did they to give you medication for it. But then again, after it's all said and done, all this experience is going to help us evolve of misery, and like we'll evolve from it. And it had to be like, we can't be perfect just like that. We have to learn perfection in order to be the purity form of a God. And if we can't do that, that's okay. There are levels of heaven where you go exist forever. And you don't have to go to the next level that becomes you a God. You see? Multiple forms of education before you get there. The Son of God is not there yet, although he's the closest one. And that would be Elohim. And the only way for this whole thing to have happened is for the Anunnaki surrendering to the light inside themselves and turning back, or maybe going to a new place of understanding in their own godships. One Yaldabaoth and the other one the purity form of God, of the life source, of life, of the purity form of the purity of truth. That's all it is. That's what it is. I don't want to say that's all it is, but that's what it is. Don't be religious. Religious dogma will kill you. Religious dogma will allow pedophiles to disguise themselves as priests and teachers to disguise themselves as non-sacrificers of children, because that's all they are now. They let a fag into the room to sexualize the hearts of children, becoming a pedophile, by the way. You'll be held accountable for the same behavior. You're sexualizing child's heart. Fuck you. You're going. You'll be gone. I fucking promise you that. You'll be gone. Zap. Just go. There won't be any argument. There won't be any trial. Your heart will express what is negative and what's positive inside you. And if it's all negative and you feel down about that, so what? You can. The process is easy. It takes 6 weeks, for fuck's sake. All you gotta do is find the will to want to change. Shit. Fuck. Shit.